Hello and welcome back to the Finntegration Society. This is literally a new take on the approach. We were requested to do a lot more type of podcast kind of a thing here, where we could have more space for guests and to join us in the studio. And of course, I'm really only set up for a one-person studio, but I'm going to go ahead and try to do my best and change all my gear around here and set up an actual area where we can do some good podcasts for you people. So we'll have multiple camera angles and multiple sources. And I'm still learning how to do all this stuff on the fly. So be patient with me. Give me a break, if you will. And in the meantime, the current situation in again, I can't even say the words United States because it really never feels like that's the right words to use. Again, pick your pick your poison. Everyone's got their favorite. Uh, but frankly, I really think this is going to be a very difficult year for the United States for a bunch of different reasons, and mostly has to do with how people don't really care about the little people at all. Anyone, I was going to say anyone but themselves, and it kind of made me stutter in a way. But that is the truth of the situation. That they don't really care for anyone but themselves. They if they have theirs, their concern has ended. And unfortunately, the whole leader class, the whole overclass, uber class, if you will, has usurped basically the process, and it's done for the little person. Frankly, it's done. It's not worth wasting your life tilting at windmills. Just don't even try. Don't bother. It's not good for you. It's not healthy. It totally is not. It'll just harm you. Which is really sad because there was a time when men and women of such character were valuable. They had a place in society and they had a place in organizations. And it was easy for superior performers and high achievers to make a mark and move up. But that's kind of been crushed out of the corporate spirit too, I think, unfortunately. But the idea that in any modern civilization in the world, I think this has to be terrifying for Europeans if you think about it rationally for one moment. That the idea that there's frankly what amounts to a felon, a multiple felon who ought to be spending the rest of his life in prison, if not had already been executed for treason, and yet that person is somehow could possibly be handed control over a nuclear arsenal again. Many Europeans are kind of confused about that when they're United States. That's just inconceivable. It is something that, again, I guess I said, Europeans are dumbfounded, literally. And I am, as an expat, whatever you want to call me, whatever my unique status is, I also am confused by the idea that there are still people, that I thought were reasonably intelligent human beings who come out of nowhere and say just the wildest stuff that just blows your mind. You just lose all your respect. I mean, there's a female here in the manosphere, if you want to call it that. I had a great deal of respect for her. She was a young woman, and she had a good message for young women, and it was basically, get a reality check on them and name any names. But then she had this one episode where her not only did her lack of cohesion intellectually come to play, but it came out in a loud, obnoxious, and hypocritical all at the same time way because she wears this shirt that has a message on it that she herself spent an episode talking about how she didn't follow the advice on her shirt. Put it that way. And I was like, well, maybe you should because of her particular belief system. And it's not because it was misdirected entirely, but because it was falsely directed, and that anyone who's reasonably intelligent can be that far right in the ways in the eyes of the the political sphere in the United States, since basically that's the only thing they know how to do is make huge extremes from one end to the other. And that's too bad because it has led to the downfall. It's been made it real easy to screw over the working class in the USA, for example, for sure, easily. It has led to nothing but uh, the demise of the working class in more ways than one. Just look at what's left of it now. Look at the remnants. Look at the complaints about the economy, and anyone who stands up, which is again, it just dumbfounds me how this happens every election cycle. But someone stands up and says, "Oh, yay, the super devil is gonna take over." Blah blah. What are we gonna do? How do we stop the super devil? And then everyone stands up and says, "Don't worry, don't worry. The devil will save us. The devil will save us from the super devil." And you're just kind of like, I have to doubt that just a tiny, tiny bit because they're both evil, and I think the only question is a matter of degree. And the terrible, sad thing about it when it comes to U.S. politics is how many people actually agree. They'll sit back and agree that they understand it is terrible that the polarism that they have exhibited to an extreme with each other, their tolerance of any idea of a third party being able to run the country for the people has just escaped them. They admit that because they are so deeply committed to beating the super devil. And that's again, they can't help it. They're rational people on both sides. I mean, there's people with advanced degrees on both sides of this coin who will defend to their last breath their own particular ideology to the detriment of the entire nation. They have no qualms in doing so. They're like the Taliban of politics in the U.S. They're like the scorched earth Roman Empire versus the freaking Byzantine army. Just no holds barred, and there can be only one. It's like Highlander in U.S. politics, and it just benefits absolutely no one, especially not the little person. And it's been going on for so long. It just broke my heart. Flat out broke my heart. I'll admit it. You know, I had was a very strong, very staunch, what I would call a patriot for a very long time. In lots of ways, I still am. But the country that I used to love, it doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it's just not there. What's left of it is a different kind of thing, and it was sold off piece by piece. And, and what's left of it now, it's there's nothing but scrap, which is too bad. It doesn't mean it can't be saved, but in my opinion, it's highly unlikely. And in the coming year, it is going to get difficult. Quite a bit more difficult, I think, because of civil unrest, if nothing else. I mean, I don't, first of all, I don't live there and I'm not going to vote and blah, blah, blah. And there's no point to it. Frankly, it's pointless. But at this point, it's fair to say the outcome of the election is going to be disputed no matter what, right? No matter what, they're going to say, hey, uh, it wasn't fair, it was rigged, or someone, cheated. And again, the idea that one of the candidates can even be seriously considered as a candidate blows my mind when that person should be in jail. I won't speak their name. But I mean, in most countries in the world, if you're a convicted felon and convicted swindler and convicted fraud, pretty much known as an insurrectionist, then how can you be ever seriously considered for political office? Again, I don't understand it. Again, I'm dumbfounded as an expat. I'm dumbfounded as a born U.S. citizen. It confuses me to no end. So then the question everyone wants to know is, well, what do you think? Who do you support? You must be supporting the devil, and that's what people. My language instructor, he just recently threw that one at me, and I kind of was curveballed on that, and I understand that that's how they all see American politics, but I think a lot of Europeans would be surprised to know that there's a surprising amount of Americans, especially younger ones, who aren't. They're more identify as independents or centrist or people who aren't stupid or whatever you want to call them. They have an identity, and they do express it at the voting booth. And again, the problem is that they just snip out their numbers. The problem is that they don't even think about or record or report the third party candidates and how many votes. And I think it should be required, especially in a democracy as large as the United States allegedly is. So, yeah, so we're going to kind of go for a little bit more laid back and podcasty environment here. I'm going to try to set up for multiple camera angles. And I don't know what's going on with that green screen angle over there. That's my other camera. But I do need to source another good microphone for guests. Either that or work with this good NT Rone that I have right here. It's one of the better vocal mics out there. I really enjoy Rode products. I have about 3 different Rode mics that I'm looking at, but unfortunately none of them is really going to work well with the setup I have besides the NT1A I have right here, which they're awesome mics as far as vocals. But anyway, so the studio is going to get some upgrades to it. We're going to be able to host and do kind of a podcast style. I want to set it up so I can have another guest with me here on camera. Which way am I pointing? That way? Yeah. So over there will be another person with an opinion, probably in opposition to my own, which I'm not afraid of. I encourage it. I wish more people would come out of the room with more questions than they had answers when they came in. And I think that goes for anyone in the world, no matter how smart you are. If you're not hanging out with friends in an environment where people aren't smarter than you, I guarantee you're not learning anything. You might think you're teaching people stuff, but you're usually wrong about that too. Ask me how I know. So yeah, the new setup will have probably a couch behind me. I would like to source another equivalent quality mic for this one, and I gotta have it as a background one right there. But this room is compact enough. It's a little echoey from my toys as a narrator. It seems a little bit reverby for me, but I really don't have it properly set up as in my opinion, as what would be a nice sound quality room. But I understand a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of content providers, and I understand why they're selling content. They're not selling, the sound quality or the video quality, although some of them are they're very well produced. Make no mistake, they're awesome. I love them. I have my hats off to some of those content providers out there that I don't know how they got their wisdom from, but they have developed quite the ability to put out their content and make it look good. And again, if I had my old hat, I would tip it to you guys. But doing what I do here, I have to keep in mind that I really don't need to have the acoustically perfect environment. I'm not doing any music recording here. So if you guys are picking up on an echo here and there, or a little bit too much background noise that shouldn't be there, or some noise from the building I'm in, or whatever, I'm trying to minimize that, but it happens. And I seem to do okay with the production side of my equation. I think I do okay, and we're going to try to introduce some more things. But the problem with, for example, with audio narration is once you get everything dialed in perfectly where you want it to stay exactly the same and for consistency over days and over time. You want to be able to re-record over things and fix stuff if you need to. Ideally, of course, you don't make any mistakes in any re-records. You do them on the fly, which is what professionals do. You just fall back and reread the paragraph or whatever right then and there. You don't leave a session for a day without anything that you think isn't all the way in the can, as they used to say. At least from my experiences editing my own work, that's the best way to do it. Is garbage in, garbage out. In other words, if you input it correctly on the front side, then there's nothing to fix in post. There's no effects you need to add. There's no clips you need to put together. No, but everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, though, especially in this content, especially in this world. And I agree with a lot of the manosphere channels that I've been watching lately. A lot of them, and some of the female ones too. Some of the female centric ones I've been watching just to see how ludicrous their equation can be. Uh, the underlying equation that everyone is concerned about is where is the United States going in all of this and the collapse of the Western society and free world and whatever else you want to call it. What's gonna become of them and young people over there? I mean, I know the old people's plan is they're gonna just monkey everything up and then die and then hand you and everyone else and your children the bill and the consequences. And I know that was their idea, but and that's going to get me roasted over hot coals, but I don't care. I think the accountability is in an order here. Everyone wants to blame mysteriously wants to blame a generation other than themselves and never wants to have the buck land on their desk and say, wow, ooh, these little hellions are my kids, so maybe dad had something to do with the way they turned out to be a barn burner or whatever it is that they are. But again, just as parents nowadays don't want to take responsibility for their kids, likewise, the parents of our generations don't accept their responsibility either. And they didn't a lot of this. They allowed it to happen. They're still doing it. The boomers are still out there voting away, voting for bigger and better golf courses with lower greens fees. They just don't even care what happens to, maybe they just thrown in the towel. Who knows? Maybe they just said, hell with it. Wish they wouldn't. They could still help save the country if anyone actually gave a damn. But it seems fewer and fewer people do. Interesting story about that backdrop right there. This picture that you see above me with the logo obviously is of a lake here in Finland, and my daughter took this picture. Dee Dee, who was on the show last week, who was actually celebrating her birthday, and I guess there's some kind of National Cat Day. Kisan Paiva was the day or something like that. So anyway, she was in town celebrating her birthday with her dad, which was a good time for us both. But anyway, I don't give her enough credit on the show, and I should because she does a lot of good work behind the scenes. She actually took that picture that I used for the background on the green screen. She does all of the thumbnail work. She is a very good graphic designer. I highly recommend her. Also, makeup artist. I don't know if any of you have noticed how good she is with her makeup, but she and I used to do a channel back in the United States. We had a studio where we did live stream makeup productions, and she is a lot more comfortable on camera when she's doing things, uh, explaining a process or whatever else on camera. Whereas I've been, learned how to be accustomed to just addressing the magical, large, mysterious, unseen audience more than she has. But we'll get her back on camera in a more comfortable environment for her, and you'll see her expertise start to shine a little bit more. And I want to keep her on as a regular guest, as I said. She's going to be starting some educational programs here in Finland that are designed to help younger people integrate and assimilate, including language training, which is what I'm doing. And I think I might do a video about the language training. It basically is 15 hours a week. It's 3 hours a day. It's pretty intensive. And there's a lot of homework, which I have to admit I don't do as much of as I should. But again, I think the idea being is if you spend 1,200, 2,000 hours worth of exposing yourself to a language, you will learn it. And they pay for the course, which is a good thing as well, because it's probably quite expensive. It's a year-long course. So anyway, this has been another episode of the Finntegration Society. I guess I'll call this episode 15 and break it off right there. And we'll see how all of this looks in post. I guess I gotta get more stuff going on in the background and everything here, but trying to get more ideas for the show to do live action, maybe even some cross channel work with some local YouTube content creators, or maybe some live streams or whatever. But any suggestions that people have for the channel, I wish you'd post them in the comments below. And I will certainly give you credit for it and maybe even have you on the show. Who knows? But anyway, my name is Dale, and this has been episode 15. Now, 15 already from the Finntegration Society. I hope you will throw me a like and a subscribe. Either one or both. Doesn't matter. Doesn't cost you anything. And I hope you do stick around and watch our future episodes. And again, suggest your topics. Email me directly at fintegrationsociety@gmail.com if you have any specific requests for information that you just want to keep personal. And one of these days, I'm looking forward to saying to you, Tervetuloa Suomeen. Welcome to Finland.